What happened to all my hair? Don't worry, it's still me. It's not the AI Michael. This is still the real one. But I was due for a haircut and they took off a little more than I was hoping for. So I can pretty much spike it like I used to do when I was a teenager, but I figured I'll keep it a little more tame for the channel, you know? Anyways, you know, one big lie that we have heard over the past couple of years is how people's wages are outpacing inflation, so it doesn't matter that inflation is up because people are getting raises that are going beyond those inflationary numbers. So nothing to worry about, nothing to see here. Okay, well, now that we know that the Fed and our government have been cooking the books, so to speak, and have been lying on purpose about all of the jobs numbers with the massive downward revision we just had, and we know that this is also the same situation with inflation, even though they won't tell us what the real inflation numbers are, or they believe that they actually are what they're saying they are. It's reasonable to think that the inflation numbers are easily close to double of whatever they tell us they are. That seemed to be a pretty accurate account for most people, especially when it was up around 9% at its peak. You know, most people were saying, hey, this is closer to 20%. So now that it's down to 3, we can say it's more like 6 or 7% probably for most people. And here's the crazy thing. Everyone's CPI and everyone's experience with inflation is gonna be different depending on where you live, depending on the stuff you buy, depending on a lot of different things. But now we have even more proof that people's pay have not been keeping up with inflation, you know, because back in 2023, the average pay increase went up 4.8%. And this is the year after inflation was at over 9%. So that is nowhere near enough to keep up, right? However, people are not getting the raises anymore like they used to. In fact, a lot of companies are not paying anybody more at all right now. And the ones that are saying that next year they expect to hand out raises of about 3.5%, which is less than 4.8% last time I checked. And this year in 2024, the average raise is only 3.6%. The percentage of people's income and how much they're getting raised is lower than what the inflation numbers have been. Well, you can say, well, the newest inflation report's at 2.9%, and if they give us a 3.5% raise in 2025, then that's fantastic, right? Well, no, because if the 2.9% inflation number is not accurate, just like the jobs numbers were not accurate by a large amount, then you can bet that 3.5% raise is not actually going to be enough to make up for that. Once the Fed does lower interest rates, there's a high probability that inflation is going to start going back up. Meanwhile, the pay raises are on the decline. That's a big problem, because if we already have raises not keeping up with inflation now, imagine how bad it's going to be if wages keep going down and inflation keeps going up. This is not the right combination that we need for economic success. Now, of course, this doesn't apply to everybody, guys. There's many different ways people can get a raise. You can get a promotion at your job. You can switch industries altogether and work in a different field. You can go back to school and get a degree and work a completely different job, or get a much better job in your existing field. There's a lot of things that people can do. You know, you can start your own business and increase your pay 100x. But for the average person hanging on to the same job in the same field, the outlook for pay raise is not looking good at a time when people really need it. And the companies themselves are also saying, hey, well, inflation's coming down, so we don't have the pressure to give raises like we did when inflation was at 9%. So we're fine with, you know, decreasing the pay raises. And of course, this is leading to a lot of people being very unhappy with their job situation. And unfortunately, a lot of the bargaining power for workers right now has shifted back to the employers, because, you know, people aren't hiring, guys. You know, go out there and try to get a job right now. A lot of you have written me how hard it is to get jobs. I've seen other YouTube videos of people talking about this who are in this situation right now. It's not a good time to be looking for a job right now towards the middle of 2024. But they say, well, even though a lot of people aren't going to be getting the raises they're hoping for, on the bright side, about 85% of people are expected to get a bump in their pay this year in 2024. Like, okay, Well, it's great to get a bump in the pay. That's never a bad thing. But it's not great if it's not keeping up with the cost of living, guys. And a lot of people who think that they're just going to switch jobs now and try and get a better opportunity could be facing a harsh reality that that's not going to happen. Because according to some recent data from ZipRecruiter, they found that less than half of the people who switched jobs recently landed a bigger paycheck than they had at their former employer. Versus at the end of 2023, 70% of people who switched jobs got a pay raise. So now it's less than half. And as the economy continues to get worse, we're seeing many companies just lay people off, let alone give anybody a raise. It's going to be very difficult to squeeze out a pay raise from any employer right now. Remember those signing bonuses that employers were giving back in the day in order to basically recruit more employees because they were so short-handed? Well, that's basically over too. Only 14% of new hires in the second quarter of 2024 reported receiving a hiring bonus versus 23% in the first quarter. So that's been on the rapid decline too. So now what employers are trying to do is they're trying to say, hey, listen, we don't want to give short-term benefits to people. We're trying to lure people in to do a longer job. We want people to stay longer than before. We don't want all this churn anymore. So they're offering things like health insurance benefits and retirement benefits and productivity-related bonuses, things like that, to try and keep people around longer. In many cases now, when people want to leave their current job, they're not even getting a counteroffer when they try to renegotiate their pay or their position. They're just like, okay, see you later. Whereas before, when there was a so-called labor shortage, 94% of people who tried to renegotiate their position or salary before moving to a new employer actually were able to do so. Now it's only 16%, guys. That's it. Just like I said the other day in my video about how we've been lied to this whole time with the jobs data and all this other government data. Companies now are making hiring decisions as well as employee pay raise decisions based on the data, based on the fake inflation data. Okay, so that's how harmful this stuff is, because everyone is basing their decisions on a lie. It's the same thing with remote work too, guys. You've seen a lot of companies, especially big name ones like Apple and Amazon, Google. Those guys have all pulled a lot of their employees back into the office. And this trend is continuing. The smartphone company, Nothing, their CEO told their employees that now they have to come back into the office 5 days a week and told them if you're not happy with it, you should be looking for a new job. And his reasoning for this is because he wants to continue growing the company. They're not trying to basically get acquired by another technology company and just get a buyout like a lot of tech companies and a lot of startups do. They want to actually continue growing the company. And he basically said that remote work is not compatible with a high ambition level plus high speed environment. So, they're trying to grow this company and make strides. And in order to do that, he feels that the whole team needs to be there together 5 days a week. And it's just not conducive to happen in a remote work environment, which is probably true. I mean, there's some things that can easily be done in a remote work environment, but things that have to happen right away, maybe not so much. And for anyone curious to know, I'm walking on Belvedere Island today. But a lot of businesses are hurting right now, and the people are not able to spend money like they were before. And you guys have sent me a couple of real world examples recently that I want to share with everyone else. So this first one is from April, and she sent me a picture of this candy store in Austin, Texas that's closing for good. And they're basically so desperate to get rid of their inventory, they're giving away a lot of it for free. Look at that. Just from 1:30 to 4 o'clock today, free bulk candy. Everything else is 50% off. Bring your own bag. Store is closing. Come to Hey Sugar Baby in the Lakeline Mall next to the kids' play area, guys. Now, obviously, candy is not something that, anybody needs. Nobody needs to buy candy, and obviously it's not good for you either. So it's easy to see why that would be a business that would suffer in hard economic times like right now. But you got to understand, all those people that are working there, they're going to lose their job. they're going to be looking for a job in a tough environment like now where it's hard to find one. When businesses close, it reduces the amount of tax revenue the local governments receive from businesses doing business and people spending money. So that takes an extra hit on the local economy. Alicia, she sent me this picture of now Jiffy Lube is offering fix now, pay later. Guys, look at that. Finance available, approval in minutes. So now, even to get your car fixed at Jiffy Lube, you are looking at a buy now, pay later situation if you're that desperate. I mean, I don't ever remember seeing this. I used to drive by a Jiffy Lube every day when I used to live in Illinois, and they never had stuff like this, guys. Like now, they know that people are so desperate and cannot afford to pay to fix their cars that they need to be offering stuff like this. Otherwise, people just won't fix the cars, or they bring them in for repair and they realize they can't pay, and maybe they never pick them up. So these things are clearly signs that things are not going well right now, and the economy is continuing to deteriorate. I mean, think of how bad this situation is too, because you're driving a car. Most people have financed their car. They don't own it outright. And then if you're driving this financed car and you need to finance the repairs on top of that, this car is just costing you so much money. It's a fortune to just pay the debt on this thing every month just to keep you in motion, to keep you having a set of wheels to go back and forth to work to. It is crazy. So I don't know, guys, let me know if you're getting a raise this year and by how much, if you think it's enough to keep up with the cost of living or not. Basically, from what I can tell, most people are not receiving a pay raise that's in line with the increased cost of living, especially when you just look at individual inflation numbers on things. Like, you know, they can say that inflation's at 2.9% all they want, but when you have, you know, big categories like housing that are still up like, you know, 6-7% year over year, those are big figures, and that's where a lot of people's money goes towards, you know, and that's just one category. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions and stories from you guys about the new real estate rules and what's happening with that. You know, I've gone over this a lot in recent videos when it comes to buyers having to pay their real estate agents commissions. And one of my viewers, Danielle from the state of Washington, she wrote to me a pretty long story. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I will summarize it to give you guys an idea of some of the problems she recently had with this situation where you have to sign agreements with the buyer's agent. So in the state of Washington, they already adopted this new change back in January of this year. So they already started forcing people to sign buyer's agreements all the way back then to just get ahead of it instead of wait till the last minute, okay? And as you guys know, most of you who watch my channel have heard me talk about this, but this means that everybody who wants to see a listing now with a buyer's agent must sign a written agreement with the buyer's agent agreeing them to pay a predefined amount of commission, okay, when the sale happens. So her story goes something like this. She lived in Eastern Washington and wanted to move to Western Washington State for better health care and a milder climate. She had to get her current house over there ready for sale, and she actually put a lot of money into the home to get it ready to sell, and she was excited for her move. She already had her eye on a few different houses in the area that she liked. She found this real estate agent on Zillow and went out there and looked at a few of the houses with him, and of course he asked her to sign the buyer broker agreement that was necessary to sign. But here's where things kind of started to go wrong, you know, because when she got into this situation, she, you know, had her eye on a few of these houses, and she knew she was probably going to buy one of them, right? So she didn't think she was going to be in a long-term relationship, so to speak, with this real estate agent. Just going to look at a few houses, I'm going to buy it and be done, right? Well, that's not how it worked out for her, unfortunately. So this is a cautionary tale for anybody who's looking at doing this right now. I'm going to give you some tips on how to avoid some of the problems she will face. So there was one house in particular that she was very interested in, and she wanted to, you know, make an offer that was less than asking price because the house needed some work, like most buyers want to do. Also, this house is at the top of her budget, so offering below asking price was basically necessary to leave room for the repair costs that she knew she was going to have to make, which is a smart buyer move. But her real estate agent told her that the seller's realtor said there was nothing wrong with the house and that it was perfect. and he put a bunch of pressure on her to make a full price offer on the house. And she said no, which was good. At least she stood her ground, and she decided to, make a lower offer anyways, and her offer was rejected. So she called the seller's realtor, and she told her that she never told her real estate agent that the house was perfect and was fully aware that the house had some issues. They just wanted to hold out for their asking price. And this is where she found out that her real estate agent lied to her. And I wish I could say that this type of thing is rare, guys, but unfortunately in the real estate business, it's more common than you think. Agents lying about conversations they had with other realtors or other clients just to pressure people into making offers and making deals. So she decided to move on to a different property and still make an offer on the place that was less than asking price. And the guy basically said, oh, they're just gonna laugh at you if you make this offer. It's not even worth it. And pretty much talked her out of making the offer, which is really awful. Especially because she said now the house is still for sale, and they actually just lowered the price of the house close to what she wanted to offer. And if you're asking why she doesn't just buy the house, then we're getting to that. So basically, this guy was a bully, and he was pressuring her into making full price offers. He put her in touch with his loan officer that was also having the same personality, kind of like giving all the wrong advice when it comes to getting a loan on a property, giving higher than market interest rates for her, even though she had really good credit, things like that, shady stuff. Wouldn't be my video without the leaf blower guy, even on Saturday. That's a surprise. So she finally decided to terminate the relationship with her real estate agent and this lender that he put her in touch with. The problem is the way that they write up the cancellation form in the state of Washington is that your former agent is still entitled to the commission if you buy a house in the same area, as long as it was a house that they showed you or that you have been texting or emailing about. Well, this is where she got in trouble, right? And this is how a lot of people can get themselves in trouble, because she sent him all the houses that she was interested in the area, like back and forth, like all the email communication. My clients used to do this too. I would send them listings. They would send me listings of the ones they liked too, all kinds of stuff. So there's this back and forth paper trail of communication on which listings she was interested in, which was all of them. So what it came down to for her is she basically wouldn't be able to buy a house in this area, any of the homes that she was interested in, without this guy getting paid and without him still being involved, even though she canceled the agreement, which is a big problem. She said that even after she terminated the agreement, he still continued to harass her, call her and email her, things like that, to try to get his commission. And basically what happened is she got bullied out of buying a house in this area that she loved and missed out on some fantastic opportunities to buy homes that she really thought would have been good for her, all because of a bad real estate agent, guys. She wasted a lot of time and money driving over there multiple times, going through the motions, making the offers, seeing the homes, the whole 9 yards, going through the pre-approval process. All this takes a lot of time and effort to do. And she was also in the situation where she had to sell her previous home in order to buy the new one, right? And she ended up selling the previous house still and had to buy another house in the same area she was already living in, because otherwise she would have no place to live. Now, could she have rented a house instead and went back to that area and maybe hired a real estate lawyer to make sure she wouldn't be on the hook for paying the commission for this other real estate agent? Yes, but a lot of people probably aren't going to go through that, especially after going through everything that she already did. So one of her biggest concerns and questions for people is, how are you to know if you're going to like a real estate agent and if they make you sign an agreement with them? Well, the short answer is you don't. Especially if you don't have a referral from somebody, you don't have any previous history with someone. That's why the best way to work with a real estate agent in general is to get a referral, guys. I can set you up with a referral. I've mentioned this before on the channel. Just fill out the link down in the description of any of my videos, and I can get you set up with a seller's agent or buyer's agent in all 50 states of the country, and it's free. But since this was just a random realtor from Zillow, you have no idea who this person is or where they're coming from. But she thinks that this new way of doing business is wrong, and it paves the way for unethical and opportunistic behavior by aggressive real estate agents. Now, that is definitely true, especially if you get into a contract with someone that's long-term. One thing that the contract that she had might not have had, especially since they adopted it back in January, is a term limit, because all of the new buyer's agent agreements moving forward are supposed to have a time limit on them. So say you want to just go look at houses for the weekend, you could sign with a buyer's agent and just look at a few houses for the weekend, and sure, they would be able to receive that commission if you were to buy any of those houses, but after the weekend's over, you wouldn't have any further commitment to them, so you're not signed with them beyond that weekend. And if you buy a different house besides the ones they showed you, you should be able to use another real estate agent. So the lesson of the story here is that you should never sign a long-term agreement with somebody, especially if you don't know them, okay? And even if you do know them, maybe at maximum, maybe you want to give them a few weeks or a month. And I'm sure a lot of agents aren't going to like that either, but you know, they got to see it from your perspective as the buyer. Like, you don't even know this person, you're agreeing to pay them a commission, and you have no idea how they conduct their business. So it is a problem. So my suggestion would be a couple of things. Only sign short-term agreements unless it's somebody you previously know, have done business with, or are super comfortable with. And also seek out this clause in the buyer-broker agreement that you have to sign, where it talks about, you know, if they're going to receive a commission from you, even if this agreement is canceled, and see what it says. Because in her case, it sounds like if you were to buy a house anywhere in that entire area, I'm not sure how it's defined by zip code or county, whatever it is, make sure that's nixed, okay? That part of the agreement should be nixed. If it's crossed out and both parties agree to it, then it shouldn't be enforceable in court. I'm not a lawyer, guys, but that's what I would do. I would say, you know what, I'm not going to commit to you for an entire zip code. Of course, if I buy one of the houses that you show me, then fine. But I shouldn't be locked into somebody if I buy a house in this entire area, right? Because you might not like the person, just like what happened to her, and they could be a terrible agent, just like what happened to her. And it's not fair for people to be locked in like that with someone they don't like or trust. And I'm sure if you're working with an ethical real estate agent, they're gonna have no problem doing that. You know, they're gonna have no problem crossing it out. Like, if I was in this position as a real estate agent and I was still working with buyers, I would have no problem signing a weekend agreement and saying, hey, anything I show you, you have to buy it through me. Beyond that, I don't care what happens, you know, because that's fair. I did the work for these properties. If you buy something different, I didn't do the work, somebody else gets paid. That's how it's always been. If you have somebody kind of strong-arming you into the situation where, no, you're stuck with me for this entire area, this entire town, this entire zip code, find somebody else. That's already the red flag right there. Talk to them about this up front. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.